Hello everybody and welcome to DQ Week Day 3. Hopefully you've been able to join our sessions on Day 1 and Day 2. And for those of you joining around the world, thank you very much for joining us today, where we'll be previewing our DQ on Demand and specifically our DQ for Excel application that is integrating with DQ on Demand. So I'm just going to turn off my camera for one moment, and we will then resume the presentation. So, who are DQ Global? We are a data management company. We're in the south of England. We've been focused on helping companies worldwide improve the quality of their data. We often hear there are challenges around completeness, consistency, duplication, of course. And we've been working with companies worldwide to help them with those challenges for the last 25 years. So we believe that up until now, data quality challenges have been very difficult to manage. Solutions have degrees of completeness. So our goal are to provide solutions which are complete and easy to use. And that's why we're here today to unveil our combination of DQ for Excel and DQ on Demand. So with that in mind, we're hoping to achieve our products in the upper quadrant where they are very complete and very easy to use. So data quality, bit of a challenge for everybody. So as I mentioned on Monday, for those of you who are listening in the fireside chat, data quality ownership is a big problem. So we're trying to make the product ubiquitous, available to everybody, whoever you are, whatever you want to connect to, whenever you want to do that work. So, of course, we want it available to everybody. Doesn't matter whether you're a developer or an end user, anybody that's comfortable with Excel. Why Excel? Well, there are 750 million users of Excel worldwide. So we're confident that there is a big demand for managing your data in an Excel spreadsheet. We all know that Excel can connect to numerous databases. There are connectors coming out weekly from providers, and Microsoft, of course, are providing numerous connectors themselves. So data quality when you need it. What we've also found is that with providers, there are charges for working with third-party providers. So what we've done is made the data quality endpoint, our DQ on Demand, available through a credit-based model. So we are buying effectively in bulk for third-party data management services, for enrichment, suppression, and all kinds of services behind our endpoints, which we'll explain a little bit more in a moment. So DQ on Demand, what is DQ on Demand about? It is a cloud solution. It is a set of web-based APIs allowing you to connect how you like. So if you're a developer, you're going to connect to our web API through calling our endpoint services. If you're using DQ for Excel or any other products, you can connect those to our web APIs. We can therefore help with point of capture, cleansing when it's existing database, etc., etc. And we'll talk about some of those scenarios in a few moments. You can also switch providers with ease. So the idea behind this is that you may well have a preferred provider. If that provider is not in our stack already, we're able to add that provider. An example might be what we call authentication of an email. So authenticate to us means ensuring that that email will deliver to the inbox, as opposed to its validity, which would be its syntax, or verification by looking up to a list. So let's take authentication as an example. There are a few providers that we already work with who deliver this capability and have different levels of functionality. So if you have a choice, it means that you can substitute that endpoint provider and you don't need to change a line of code in your application. So much like a utility company, you can switch out the water, electricity, and power. So credit-based model. We are doing this, as I mentioned, on a credit-based. DQ units are the credits effectively that you're buying, and you can spend those the way that you want on the services that you need. There's full documentation. We have currently over 18 data improvement services, and behind each of those data improvement services, there are numerous methods, functions, etc. And we believe it's very easy to use. So what kind of services can you expect from DQ On Demand? Well, I won't walk through all of these clearly, as we've got the 18 plus, as I mentioned, but things like authenticate, I mentioned authentication of an email, but will it deliver? Suppression of deceased, gone away, people that don't want to be contacted because they've expressed a preference not to be contacted. Derive, maybe, we'll see that in potentially one of the sessions, but you can derive maybe something easy like a gender from a name, or derive the ISO from a country where the country names might be incredibly misspelled. Generate phonetic tokens, generate patterns, format your data, verify your data against reference data sets, particularly relevant for address verification, and verification maybe of emails, verification of phone numbers if you have a list or third-party providers have that list. Validation, of course, which is checking the syntax, and round the clock face here are things like matching. So we have our own matching engine, which is actually available in the cloud as well. In terms of developer resources, you can see that there is a complete suite of resources here. Any developer can connect to those, identify what the functions are. There are code examples, and we make it very easy, therefore, for you to integrate with our solutions. So perhaps some use cases. One of which would be a system migration, perhaps, or integration. Everybody is migrating or integrating at numerous times and maybe continually. So either prior to the migration or during the integration, one might call the DQ On Demand services to improve the quality of your data. Continuous data integration or continuous data servicing. This is where we have customers that are using our services during ESB calls, or at point of entry into their business applications, or when a piece of data changes in their business application, they can call our services to validate, format, standardize, enrich, etc., as we talked about. And of course, one-off cleanups. People may just have a simple job. You may want to clean that data up in a simple way, and we'll be demonstrating that through our Excel add-in shortly. So DQ On Demand is available now. We have customers using it and relying upon it as business critical applications, and it's a very complete solution, as you will have seen, giving you a whole range of services, and these services are being added to all the time. A series of web-based APIs, so you can call them anywhere, from anything, at any time. And of course, credit-based consumption we've mentioned before, to help you budget more effectively, utilize this from your expenditure budget, and connect and do what you want when you want, rather than buy into a huge price plan perhaps to do a small task. So once again, recapping, we believe that until now, data quality has been both difficult and it's been incomplete in its functionality. Lots of vendors with different levels of functionality, requiring lots of people with lots of different skills to integrate with the solutions. So our solutions, hopefully, easy to use, very complete. Okay, so we're going to take a look at DQ for Excel. This is our alpha preview of the application, and we'll be taking you through that with some examples shortly. So what is it? Well, it's a very familiar and easy to use application. I've mentioned that in the use worldwide, we have 750 million users of Excel. And we all know that people store their data in the silos of Excel, not necessarily connected into their business applications, CRM, ERP, etc., product management. People are fixing data, manipulating data all the time in Excel. And that's why we've chosen Excel as a brilliant interface for us to plug into our DQ on demand and deliver data quality improvement functionality. As we mentioned, there are endless connectors in Excel, anything from connecting to Salesforce, Dynamics, numerous business applications, cloud instances, and we'll talk about that in a few moments as well. And of course, the common data service, common data model that Microsoft are pushing so heavily. Again, of course, credit-based consumption, because we're calling into our cloud functionality. So how does it work? Well, as you know, with Excel, you can access data from files, from databases, and the other things that we can see on our screen here. So numerous sources to start with, and then numerous plugins that you can work with. So our DQ for Excel solution or plugin is integrating with our DQ on demand service to offer all of the functionality that we've been talking about. And then of course, once you've got that data in Excel and you've manipulated it, improved it, you might want to put that data back into all those targets that need that higher quality data. So let's go and switch over to take a look at DQ for Excel. I'll now just change my screen share. So give me one moment. And let's go and switch over to our Excel. So here we're looking at a standard Excel spreadsheet, of course. Here is some source data that we've actually retrieved, in fact, from SQL Server. So if I go home here, go to data, you can see that we've had some recent sources. One of those recent sources was our Office server, of course, because we're working remotely at this moment in time. So I've connected to that server and I pulled this data down into our spreadsheet. So you can see familiar data here, all kinds of things with emails, first names, last names, of course, all sorts of different phone numbers. Oh dear, look at this. We've got some font substitution going on where we've got some terrible data that's come in that ordinarily is not manageable, but we'll be showing you how we can manage that. You've got, of course, city, postcode, country, and company names. So normal kind of name and address data, all kind of all over the place, frankly, and we're going to look to help you fix these problems. So each one of these tabs has been designed to show some of these illustrations. And here is our solution or our plugin for Excel, showing you how we can perform these actions. So here we've got the ability to, of course, you'll be able to buy credits. And here you can see the usage for these various services. So we can expand what was done when. Here are all the functions that you can call. You can see that here we've already integrated with Dun & Bradstreet as a partner. And of course, we can help you break bulk because it's very expensive to buy a license with Dun & Bradstreet. But we can help you, like with other data providers, buy in bulk and allow you to buy with your credits. So let's take a look at some examples. Along here, we've got our transformations. So here, I'm going to show you a simple set of data. You can see here that we've got some very poorly spelled data that may be able to be fixed by a spell checker. But these are some of the examples that we've collected over the years. So what I'm going to show you here is how we might autocorrect that. Now, here is our solution add-in. So I'm going to pick my source field, which in this case is country input. I'm going to pick the start of my range of my data, and I'm going to pick the end of the range of my data. Now I'm going to select, in this case, spelling correction, but we can also do Unicode correction here. And I'm going to output that to this field, spelling correction in here. And we merely autocorrect. We're going to confirm that we're going to update those fields. And now we've corrected all of those spellings to the correct formats here. So instantly you could see that your data would be changed from this to this in your Excel spreadsheet. Let's take a look at that problem of the Unicode correction, something we've seen often when data is migrated. And many times before now, we've had to send the data back and say, look, it's been corrupted along the way in Excel. There's been some sort of font substitution. Can you re-import that? Or basically, if you can't, we can't help. Well, thankfully now we can. So if we go here, we go for autocorrect. This time I'm going to pick my address one input. I'm going to select my value here, pick start again, of course. I'm going to select my end selection, which I believe is A100 in this example. I'm going to go for Unicode correction, and I'm going to output it to this column, Unicode corrected. So there you go. We've now modified this data, and you can see that errors like this, where we had these squiggles, and instead we've now got the corrected Unicode values in our data. So hopefully you can see that now previously corrupted data that could not be used can now be corrected very simply to allow you to get on with your business with data that can be trusted. So let's move on to transformations. So often people want to transform their data and standardize it in a consistent way. So what I'm going to show you here is a transformation. So if we go to transform, then of course we'll get our transform component here. And I'm going to take my company input. Of course, as we've seen before, I'm going to pick my initial starting point for my range. I'm going to select again A100 because I know we have 100 rows in that column. And here is a drop down of all of the available transformation categories that we have available to you. So addresses would transform things like road, street, avenue, Strasse, Rue. Businesses, of course, limited, Ltd, Inc, PLC, GmbH, etc., etc. And you can see the whole list here. I won't go through them one by one. We work in 5 spoken languages: English, French, Spanish, German, and Italian. And that's consistent across a number of our transforms and data quality improvement services. Now you can see here that we also abbreviate or elaborate or normalize or indeed transliterate so that you can correct or remove diacritics if you want to. So abbreviate is going to make things smaller, elaborate bigger, normalize, bring them down to a common form for matching, or exclude, throw them all away altogether. So let's, in this case, abbreviate. Let's output into the company transforms. And there you go. We've now, wrong category. Let's try businesses. So my error, pilot error there. We didn't transform that because they're not addresses on the input. There you go. So now we've got Williams Limited and variations in our data. However, if I were looking at this, I wouldn't be totally happy. So what I'd like to do is modify the casing. So in this case, I'm going to take the company transforms as my input. I'm going to again pick my start, pick my end. I'm going to, in this case, I will title case, but we can proper case addresses and proper case family names where you deal with McDougall, O'Reilly's, etc., etc. But for the case of this business data, let's simply output it to the company transforms and case it in a form that can now be used and is perhaps more familiar to the business. Now you note here that a tab has been built. So actually we've shown that this has been transformed from this mixed case or combination of variant case into a standard title case format. Okay, so formatting. Well, there are all kinds of formats. So let's just focus here on our format functionality. You can see that we have a whole raft of input telephone numbers of different styles based upon 2 different countries, in this case, just simply UK and Germany. So again, very familiar. Anyone who knows Excel or is familiar with this is going to get to grips with this real quick. So phone input, we've now seen here, start, end. Now, here's where we pick our phone format. So you can choose under telephones, E164, RFC 3966, national or international. So let's pick international. Let's go into our country field and pick the country, because we require the country to be able to format this data. And the output field in this case is going to be DQ phone formatted, or phone formatted field. So let's execute that. Okay, so now we have really nice standardized telephone numbers, which can be used by perhaps a predictive dialer. Now over here, you might see some text and wondering why that's there. It's because in our application, you can use a whole raft of functions that I perhaps should have mentioned right at the start. However, look at all of these capabilities that over the last 25 years we've developed so that you can utilize those within the Excel application. So I'm simply going to show you here. So if I clear these guys, perhaps, whoops, let's shift and delete those. And let me just show you what will happen here. So if I do equals DQG underscore format, we're going to pick telephone, we're going to pick our input, we're then going to pick our format of the telephone. Whoops, I just need to put that in quotes. Let's go for national. And then we just need our country input, close bracket, and away you go. So there you go. There are our UK or German local telephone numbers. If I change that to international, then we've now got the same format here as we did. So the beauty of this though is if you do it this way, you can, if you change this number dynamically, so I'll make that 00 maybe, then this will dynamically update for you because it's an Excel function, whereas we have no control through Excel of this data after it's been formatted. So that really shows you the power of using those @DQG underscore functions that we talked about. And you can see there's a whole raft here that we will be introducing as well in this ribbon bar. Okay, so let's move on then to a couple of last ones before we close out. And let's look at generate. So generate. Here we're looking at a series of input fields. So I've got the first names. I've got, in fact, we abbreviated using our transform method, and we've applied phonetic tokens already to these inputs of first names. What I'd like to show you here is that if we now generate, okay, excuse me, let's apply generate. I'll proceed in the cell edit mode. Please complete your cell edit before processing. That's weird. Generate. Go here or here. Generate. Yes, better. Generate. So I am now going to take my last name as an input. I'm going to pick my range. I'm going to pick my end range, which is here. I'm going to apply one of our many algorithms, in this case, DQ phonetics. I'm going to apply, in this case, for simplicity, I'm going to take the English language. I'm going to output that to the last name token. I'm going to generate those. And lo and behold, I've generated some phonetic representations of these names. Now, if you look here, we of course got Brooks and Brooks, but we've got Fran and Francis, Brown, Brown. Now, we all know that if you were to deduplicate using Excel and you use this first name column and this last name column, unless they were identical, you wouldn't find any duplicates. However, if you now use this column and this column as first name and last name variants, then Aaron with 2 R's or 1 R, Robbie and Robert would be found to be the same. Mick and Mike, Jagger perhaps, could be found the same because they've got the same phonetic tokens. So hopefully you can see the value of generate. Now, I'm conscious of time, so really quickly, I won't rerun any of these, but you can see that we pre-marked up some of these validation rules where we've got some false data in some of this data. So what I'll quickly do is I will validate utilizing the email input. So let's go email input. Again, everybody should now be familiar with this. We're going to pick our end. And the action is going to be actually an email. You can see that we do telephone, email, postcode, or URL. So I'm going to take an email and I'm going to output that to email is valid. So here we go. We've written those in and you can see that there's some false records here. Why? Because here we've got a full stop or period before the @ symbol, not obvious to the human eye. 2 @ symbols. Another period in front, etc., etc. You can see the kinds of faults. Now here you've got an issue, actually look, where there's an O instead of a 0. This one, extension 123, this one, home. This one's got a DDI in the front of it. So where systems allow text to be in a field, then clearly you're going to have problems with cleaning up that data. Now we have methods for doing that, but we don't have time to talk about that today. Postal code, similar problem. This one's got an extra D on it. This one is, looks like an I instead of a 1, and an O instead of a 0, which again, we can fix easily with our technologies. URLs, we've got something missing here. So I won't go into these, but there's a semicolon instead of a colon. There's a comma and there's a missing .com. So that's not right either. Okay, so in the interest of time, let me again switch back to my presentation and just conclude. So hopefully that's given you a good insight into the capabilities of Excel and the power of the functions that we put in there and making it very easy for you guys to use. So a couple of use cases before we close. Managing contact data, of course, before it's uploaded. So people may want to clean this data before they upload it to any of the systems that they're working with. Improving data for reporting. We know that there's a huge task around reporting and people are manipulating data day in, day out to fix things for executive eyes, when if we could take out that time and effort, I'm sure it would be a very welcome solution. And managing data, of course, currently in your system. So if you've got data in your CRM, then, or any other business applications, of course, you can pull that data down into a spreadsheet. All applications can get data out CSV and back in CSV. So with the connector, you can connect directly, pull that data, work in Excel, fix it. If the Excel connector has write back to your system, then of course that data will be updated directly in your system. So thank you for your time today. We are launching this as an alpha test version. So if you are interested, then let us know. We will be providing free credits with your download. So of course you can improve this and have it working on your own data. And we will be delighted to work with you. Either put an Excel in the chat or contact us on the URL below and we'll be delighted to talk to you. I think actually I'm afraid we're going to be out of time for questions here. So thank you so much for your time today. And we look forward to working with you. We have coming up tomorrow a presentation with Sunny Bath from DMG Events, talking to us about their architecture and how they've managed data and how they've worked with DQ Global. And on Friday, we have the Leaning Tower of Data and a preview of our DQ On Demand, or masterclass actually of DQ On Demand, showing, sorry, my mistake, DQ Studio, showing you how we can integrate with numerous systems to get the data foundations right. So thank you very much, and we look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye for now.